This video explores the impacts that your family, culture and society have on your thinking and behaviour, and the danger of confusing normal behaviour with natural behaviour. Metaphors for the mind. There's dozens and dozens of metaphors for the mind and for the brain. Just briefly, this just covers some of them. So a lot of people use gear wheels or a machine or a computer to describe how the mind and the brain works. A lot of people will talk about a light globe, and ideas and thoughts tend to be a light globe, and even the logo for the High Performance Thinking logo, I use a stylized light globe in my logo. One I've discovered I thought was interesting were bees. The Spanish described the mind as a beehive. Basically the brain being a buzz with multiple and conflicting plans and interests that must be managed. I thought that's a nice metaphor. One of my favourite metaphors is the elephant and rider. And the thought here is that the rider is the conscious mind. That's what we're aware of ourselves. And our unconscious mind is actually the elephant. The elephant's the unconscious mind. And so we've got the driver driving the elephant in control. The driver's in control, or the rider is in control of the elephant. But the truth is that the elephant can at any time do what it wants to do, and the elephant's very much in control of itself to a lot of extent. So I think that that's a really interesting metaphor to think about. The one I've used in my ebook, however, is that of an autopilot. Autopilot being basically a set and forget device. Set a course and a destination and let the autopilot take you from where you are to where you want to be. And it's also important to remember that autopilots start from a place, and that place is where you currently are. I believe that the operating system of our autopilot, the basic programming that makes the machine work, comes from what we learn as a child and partly genetic, our nurture versus nature, the nurture versus nature debate, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, and the associations that we have. So the things that we've learned, and these are mostly at an unconscious level. It takes a bit of work to bring some of these thoughts out to a conscious level, but that's the basic operating system. The destination of life and the route that we're taking through life is our life script. There's a whole section on life scripts. This comes from transactional analysis. And our life script basically determines how we think our life will flow and roll out. The sort of life you expect to have. Again, this happens all at a very unconscious level. But are you going to be happy or sad? Are you going to have terrible relationships or great relationships? Are you going to always date losers? Or this is all part of your life script. Is life going to be tough? Are you going to be poor? Are you going to be struggling through life? This is our life script, and that's basically the route. And how do you see yourself in your old age? Are you going to be happy, sad, married, divorced, rich, poor? That's your destination. That's all part of your life script. As you go from where we are to where we want to be, we end up, one of the things autopilots need to do is do some course corrections. A gust of wind might come along and blow the plane slightly off course, and the autopilot might need to push us back on course, or we might have a tailwind or a headwind. And we'll look at a section called homeostasis. And homeostasis is fundamentally about staying on course and how course corrections occur in our life. So we're looking at all of these concepts. Well, I'll give you an example at the moment. You ever been angry? Surely you've been angry. We all get angry about all sorts of things. Now, this is how the autopilot works. Do you ever think about what causes you to be angry and realise that that is something you've learnt to do? You've learnt to be angry about certain things. And let me try and clarify why I say that you've learnt this. I used to get very frustrated, not so much angry, but very frustrated, which is a mild sort of anger, standing in queues. When I had to wait at the registration office, waiting to get car rego or my driver's license renewed at the Department of Motor Transport, wasn't back in those days. When I used to stand in those queues, I used to get very angry and very frustrated. And I think a lot of people get very angry and very frustrated standing and waiting in queues. But I don't anymore. I don't. I've stopped. I've learnt not to be angry. So that anger and frustration I felt waiting in the queue was not natural. I wasn't born that way. It was a behaviour that for some reason I learnt. I learnt to be impatient. And we learn to be angry at things. So what makes you angry may not make other people angry. And what makes other people angry may not make you angry. So anger is a learnt response. So the stimulus that causes the anger is learnt. Then from there, once the stimulus has initiated a reaction in you, you're in autopilot. You go straight into anger and you react and behave in certain ways that you've learned to react and behave in. Do you ever stop to think about this? Do you ever stop to think about when you, not only what causes you to be angry, and should you have some control over that? And the answer is yes, you should. But how is it that you behave and react? Do you go into rage? Do you scream? Do you punch? Do you thrash? Do you stew? Do you become like a kettle that's about to boil over? Do you shout? Do you scream? Do your arms go flailing about? How do you behave? Because being angry and then responding in a certain way, having a certain behaviour, are two separate things. And again, we don't think about this. We never think about the fact that something happens and then we get angry, and we can think about, well, should we get angry or not? Should we not get angry? And that's a decision you can make. And then the next question is, or the next issue is, when you do get angry, then you behave in a certain way. And you could stop to ask yourself, is this the appropriate behaviour? When I'm angry, should I react this particular way? Here's this young lady here who's obviously in a lot of rage and screaming out. Is that appropriate behaviour? And again, this is something you can learn to control if you want to. High performance thinking is asking those questions. Is this something that's appropriate to get angry about, especially if it happens over and over and over and over again? If you're getting angry about the same things on a recurring basis, then you should readdress, you should at least reflect on, is this something that you should be getting angry about? Are you justified? Is this an appropriate way to expend your energy and to have a visceral reaction about? Or are you in control, or is the elephant in control? That's the question here. Are you the rider or the elephant? And that's the question. That's an example of how the autopilot works in your life. I believe that we're on autopilot. I reckon about 99.99% of the time we're on autopilot. From the moment you wake up, you have habitual ways of doing things. You have habitual thoughts, and most people spend very little time consciously thinking about their behaviour and their reaction and their values and their decisions. They're just acting through them. And if you keep having, if things keep occurring to you which are unpleasant or unwanted, if things keep happening in your life that you wish that they didn't, it's because you're living your life in such a way that you're allowing events to reoccur, situations to reoccur. It's because you're living through, basically through your autopilot. What you need to do is learn how to set a new course and how to set a new route, and then suddenly your life takes on a different course. That's the whole point. The next video explores the impacts that your family, culture and society have on your thinking and behaviour, and the danger of confusing normal behaviour with natural behaviour.